What if the most terrifying horror story in television history was broadcast live? What if millions of people watched evil unfold in real time, thinking it was just another night of entertainment? And what if the desperate need for fame became the very thing that opened the door to darkness? This is Late Night with the Devil. At first glance, the film feels like a nostalgic trip back to the golden age of late-night television. Bright studio lights, charming hosts, commercial breaks, laugh tracks. The familiar comfort of entertainment designed to help audiences forget the troubles of the world. But beneath that polished surface lies a chilling question. How far would someone go to stay relevant? The story centers around Jack Delroy, a charismatic television host fighting to save his struggling late-night show. Once celebrated and admired, Jack now finds himself losing viewers to younger, more sensational competitors. Ratings are falling. Pressure is mounting. Executives are growing impatient. For someone whose entire identity is built around being seen, being forgotten feels like a fate worse than failure. Jack isn't portrayed as a villain. He's ambitious, professional, driven. But his desperation slowly clouds his judgment. He becomes obsessed with finding the one unforgettable broadcast that will bring audiences back. One episode, one moment, one miracle. And Halloween night presents the perfect opportunity. The special episode is designed to shock and entertain. A psychic medium, a skeptical magician determined to expose fraud, experts discussing the supernatural, and a mysterious young girl connected to a disturbing past. Everything appears carefully planned, controlled. Television at its finest. Yet horror often emerges not through chaos, but through the illusion of control. What makes Late Night with the Devil so effective is how ordinary everything initially feels. People laugh. They exchange jokes. The audience applauds. The atmosphere resembles countless talk shows viewers have watched for decades. That familiarity lowers defenses. It creates trust. And then, tiny cracks begin to appear. Unexpected reactions. Uncomfortable pauses. Subtle moments that don't quite make sense. The kind of details audiences instinctively dismiss. Because people naturally seek rational explanations. Especially when confronted with things they don't understand. The film brilliantly explores humanity's complicated relationship with belief. Why do some people embrace the supernatural while others reject it entirely? How much evidence does someone need before questioning their worldview? And perhaps most importantly, how often do people ignore warning signs because acknowledging them would disrupt their sense of reality? Jack finds himself trapped between skepticism and opportunity. Part of him wants to maintain professionalism. Another part recognizes that controversy drives attention. The temptation becomes impossible to ignore. If audiences are watching, isn't that what matters most? This conflict transforms the story into something more than horror. It becomes a commentary on media itself. Entertainment constantly competes for attention. Bigger headlines. More shocking moments. Greater emotional reactions. The line between informing audiences and exploiting spectacle grows increasingly blurred. Jack's choices reflect pressures many public figures face. When success depends on visibility, where should ethical boundaries exist? The guests surrounding him each represent different approaches to the unknown. Some seek validation. Others seek truth. Some pursue profit. And others genuinely believe they are helping people understand forces beyond comprehension. Together, they create a fascinating collision of perspectives. No one possesses complete certainty. Everyone arrives carrying assumptions. As tension escalates, the atmosphere shifts almost imperceptibly. Conversations become strained. Smiles feel forced. Confidence begins to erode. The studio itself transforms. Not physically at first, but emotionally. The place designed for entertainment starts feeling like a pressure cooker. Viewers witness how quickly familiar environments become threatening once trust disappears. Late Night with the Devil understands that fear thrives through anticipation. The unanswered question often feels more terrifying than immediate revelation. Audiences sense something is wrong long before they understand why. That growing unease becomes the film's greatest strength. Jack's emotional journey remains central throughout. Beneath his polished persona exists profound vulnerability. He fears irrelevance, failure, the possibility that everything he sacrificed for success might ultimately mean nothing. His desire to reclaim significance becomes deeply relatable. Many people define themselves through careers, achievements, or public perception. What happens when those foundations begin collapsing? Do they adapt? Accept change? Or chase increasingly dangerous solutions? The film suggests desperation can distort priorities. Good intentions become compromised. Reasonable decisions become reckless. Not because people are inherently evil, but because fear of loss influences judgment. As events spiral beyond explanation, Jack faces an impossible reality. Some situations cannot be managed through charisma. Some doors cannot simply be closed once opened. Control itself proves fragile. The confidence television projects every night is revealed as performance. Behind every broadcast stand flawed human beings improvising through uncertainty. The horror becomes psychological as much as supernatural. Audiences aren't merely frightened by unexplained phenomena. They're unsettled by recognizing how easily ordinary structures collapse under extraordinary pressure. Institutions people trust. Personal identities carefully constructed. Assumptions about reality. Everything becomes vulnerable. Late Night with the Devil also raises fascinating questions about spectatorship. Why are people drawn toward witnessing discomfort? Why do audiences struggle to look away during moments of crisis? Perhaps curiosity reflects humanity's endless search for meaning. Or perhaps fear reminds people they're alive. By the story's conclusion, viewers are left contemplating consequences extending far beyond one television program. The pursuit of validation. The cost of ambition. The responsibilities attached to influence. And the danger of believing success justifies every decision. Jack's story ultimately feels tragic rather than simple. He isn't remembered solely for achievement or failure. He's remembered for the choices he made under pressure. Choices shaped by hope, fear, pride, and the universal desire to matter. Late Night with the Devil succeeds because it transforms a familiar setting into something profoundly unsettling. It reminds us that horror doesn't always emerge from isolated houses or abandoned roads. Sometimes it appears beneath bright studio lights, in front of cheering audiences, hidden behind reassuring smiles, waiting patiently for the exact moment performance gives way to reality. If you enjoyed this transformative recap and analysis, don't forget to subscribe to Movie Story Recaps and share this video with fellow horror fans. Leave a comment below and tell us which movie you'd like us to break down next. Because sometimes, the scariest thing isn't what hides in the darkness. It's realizing the whole world was watching when the darkness finally stepped into the light.